The Liberals are in such strife that there is a growing realisation, even among politicians on the left of the party, that they've got to change. In particular, got to appeal to the voters now rushing to back One Nation instead. But do they actually have the guts to follow through? I heard something amazing on the weekend from one of those Liberals who says he has leadership ambitions, but it's just he has, therefore I think, sounded more conservative than even Tony Abbott. Now, when Abbott was Prime Minister, he kept telling us not to trash our British heritage. His mantra then was that the country we created has an Aboriginal heritage, a British foundation and a multicultural character. But on Saturday, Tim Wilson, the opposition spokesman for industrial relations and small business, out-Abbotted even Abbott in a speech to the Young Liberal Convention, saying, actually, we have an Aboriginal heritage, British foundation, those bits are right, but forget the multiculturalism. We should instead have a united future. That's taking up a Pauline Hanson theme right there. But you can trust the Liberals, can you, to really follow through? I spoke to Tim Wilson a short while ago. Tim Wilson, thank you so much for your time. First, obviously, the news poll, the Coalition down to 18%. Sussan Ley, the most disliked leader in 23 years. Personally, I like Sussan Ley, but this does spell the end for her, doesn't it?
Well, I'm not prepared to say that, but there's clearly some middle finger voting going on to pollsters from some of the electorate. We need to acknowledge that. People are looking at our political system at the moment and saying they don't think it delivers for them. And, you know, frankly, I agree with them. What Australians want right now is to see a government focused on them, building out the pathway where hard work pays off and where they increase the control they have over their lives. We need to step up. We need to do better to obviously secure that confidence.
That seems a very low-key reaction to an absolutely devastating poll, the worst ever in Liberal history. I don't know if it's recoverable under present management and present policies. Do you?
Well, I think the only way to solve this problem, everyone focus on the individual in the chair. The only way to solve this problem is you've got to work together as a team. You've got to put forward a program. You've got to then go on and articulate and sell that and campaign for it because people have got to materially see it's going to improve their lives.
I agree that you've got to do all the things you just said then. You haven't done them. That's the problem. There is going to be a change in individuals. Angus Taylor looks like challenging this week. Personally, I'm not so sure it's the change the Liberals need. He doesn't look it. He doesn't sound it. Do you think it's that change?
Look, I'm not going to get into speculation, Andrew. I know how much everybody likes to talk about these things. Obviously, there are a lot of conversations going on in the corridors in this building. There's no point pretending otherwise. And everybody's talking about the future because they're seeing the polls, they're seeing discussions in the media. The focus has to be, every time I look at it, is how are you applying that energy to addressing that gap around the program and things we need to do to advance, not just the party, but frankly, the best interests of Australians.
I wonder whether you think you could be the change the Liberals need.
I absolutely believe that I am part of the change the Liberals need, not just in the shadow portfolio, but to put forward disruptive policy proposals that are actually going to change the direction of political conversation. I'm not being subtle about that at all. I've outlined, as I said before in a speech, well, that's up to colleagues at the end of the day, because I've said publicly many times I'll serve in whatever role I can, but leadership's a responsibility that falls on all of us. It doesn't matter whether you're a backbencher, a member of shadow cabinet, or the leader themselves.
Well, to your speech, I totally agree with needing to change the focus from multiculturalism to unity. I thought you had a very good line, a twist on something Tony Abbott, a phrase Tony Abbott coined. It's easy to say, but what takes guts, of course, is actually doing something. What did you have in mind that actually needed doing? Like, how about just flying the Australian flag, not 3 flags, as just a symbolic start?
That's a symbolic start, but I don't think that's the core focus. When we get bogged down in a symbol over 1 versus 3, we're not having a real conversation. When, you know, whether you're born in Australia or you're a new Australian. We should be making it very clear as part of the narrative of the country, our civic rituals, and what we expect to be educated of the next generation of Australians. Some pretty basic ideals. The importance of love of country, of course, making sure we're a society built on respect and tolerance, but then through our economic institutions,
but what do you do? Concrete
ensuring the
things.
hard work. Sure, no, well, I think I can go through each one of them if you want. As I said in the speech at timwilsonmp.com.au, I talk specifically about the need that we need a national story for our country. We don't really have one. And that has to be focused on the full story from 60,000 years ago to the present day. And then you need to build it into the civic rituals of our society. I think we've got to be very open about the idea that we open civic rituals with an acknowledgement to country at the moment. Well, why aren't we talking about our national unity and our responsibility to each other? I think we need to very clearly have a narrative of our country, which is one land, one people with one destiny, rather than talking about what divides us. Let's talk about what unites us and breed it into our civic way of life.
Yeah, these again sound, you know, building a narrative. What is that? What's the process? I mean, that is vague. I'm talking about you dismissed changing from 3 flags to 1 flag as purely symbolic. But the point is, it's a sign of earnest. It's a sign of earnest. What would you actually do that people say, I understand that completely, I'm on board?
I think we're going to have well, let's start with the things on the calendar. We start with Australia Day. We go through a debate every year back and forth about the direction, and I'm only floating this proposal, but maybe we need to start to have a conversation about having some sort of a public vote to resolve this and move on. But I do actually think government has a responsibility to build into our civic participation and our civic way of life. So when we get to citizenship ceremonies, what we expect of new Australians is a complete integration into the Australian way of life, and that goes from making sure we've got the proper resources for English language education so people can be full participants in economic and social participation. You then need to go through and build it out as part of the education system. But at the moment, Andrew, we're not even investing in a story for Australia that we can all tell. We have sort of a left-wing view, which is 60,000 years to 1788, then we skip to about 1958. We need a continuum which recognises the full history of our country. It needs to be taught in our schools. It then needs to go through and be put into our civic institutions. And we shouldn't be afraid to oblige every Australian to understand that and to align with our national anthem, with as I said, citizenship ceremonies as well, and wherever we can see an opportunity to do so, including in this nation's parliament. Because these things aren't,
I don't know. I'm thinking
they have to be rhythmic.
Yeah, I'm just not hearing the cut-throughs like you do with Pauline Hanson. Yeah, well, I know, but you can't force people to go to church. You can't force them to sing the national anthem. Yeah, they can say, oh, yeah, we subscribe to your values. Do they actually mean it? What do you do if they don't? This is the whole thing. I mean, I think when you decry the symbolism and then you actually suggest a referendum on Australia Day, I'm not seeing the cut-through that the Liberals need.
Well, firstly, Pauline always has simplistic solutions to problems, but not long-term ones, to make sure that new Australians have a pathway. There's no flick-the-switch solution. We need to rhythmically do things as part of the Australian way of life, and it's going to take a significant period of time because, frankly, I think we've as a nation been sloppy about a lot of these issues. We assume that people want to come in here and automatically always want to fully integrate into the Australian way of life. I think people are starting to question that, and that's why we've got to be robust and assertive about it, and we've got to keep it going because there is no flick-the-switch solution, Andrew.
There isn't, but there are some things you could do that really show, like I say, you really mean it. You are in earnest. But Tim Wilson, I appreciate you actually at least raising the issue, and I urge people, like you suggest, to go and see your speech online. Tim Wilson, thank you so much for your time.